Hello and welcome. Today we're going to be doing some web scraping. Let's go ahead and jump to my website. Here it is. This is my website, and we can look up something like router, and we'll bring up any videos that have the word router in the title. So let's say we want to pull information from this website, right? Well, this web page right here, even if before I type anything, is generated. It's processed using some JavaScript. So let's say we want to look at the code. Control U will usually, on at least Chrome-based browsers, open up the source code for that page. And here it is. This is the source code for that page. But this is not everything is loaded. So for example, one of the videos loaded was called Base64 encoding. If I come in here and I hit Control F and I type in Base64, nothing comes up. Those words aren't in there because this is the static HTML before it actually runs any of the JavaScript and loads stuff. So how can we see what is actually rendered on the page as code? Well, we can open up the developers tools, which on a Chrome-based browser is usually F12. If you're on a page, you hit F12, it opens up this. I can come over to the Elements tab here, and here's the HTML. I can expand things out and look through all of this. Just a side note, if you don't have F12 on your keyboard, which I was at a Chromebook once that didn't have an F12, how do you get into the developer's console? Instead of F12, you can do Control-Shift-I, also opens it. That's great. Don't always remember that. If for some reason you don't have F12 or you forget the Control-Shift-I, anywhere on the page you can right-click any element and say Inspect, and it will open it up and actually jump to that element in the inspector, right? So if I was to right-click on this one and say Inspect, it's going to bring me right to it right here. And if we look here, you can see as I expand this out, go low enough, right there, it says Base64 encoding. So we know this is it. And I can actually grab this, I can right click this, and I can say copy, and I can copy that element or other parts of it and paste that into a file. But we don't want to do that. We want to automate stuff. So again, if I start typing stuff here like Linux, you'll see the HTML in the developer tools is updating because it's showing what is actually being rendered, not the original code. So where is this information coming from? Well, if we go over to the network tab here, and we click on all, you can see there's a whole bunch of stuff in here. And we're looking at all. This is everything that loads on the page. If it loads onto the page, you should be able to find it here unless the developer's going through extra efforts to hide stuff from you, which does happen if you're talking about big companies like Netflix or Google and stuff like that. They don't necessarily want you to see everything. But most websites, anything that loads on the page will be over here. We can break these up into different categories. You can see here we have this is WebAssembly, we got manifest files, media files, so if you're looking for video or audio files. Images will show just images, and again, you can click on these and they'll show you a preview of them, right? So these are all the thumbnails that are loaded. We have any font files that are loaded. JavaScript, if it's a separate file, I actually have the JavaScript right in the page. Same with my CSS, they're not separate files. If they were separate files, they'd be showing up here. Any doc files, but lots of the time, a majority of the time, when you're looking for something on a web page, you want to pull that information, it's probably going to be this fetch XHR. If you are typing something or doing something that is changing the page, so again, if I type in bash, that changes stuff on the page, but it doesn't reload the page, it's probably going to be this fetch XHR. You can also do a word search in the filter up here if you know what you're looking for, right? So if I had all here, I know I just typed in bash, I can come up here and I can type in bash, and oh look, it filtered it down to that one file. So if I click on this, it now shows me this. So what is this? We can look at the preview or the response. It's actually the same text, just looks a little different. Well, I made this web page a long time ago, before I knew about properly formatting things like JSON. So really, when I'm pulling stuff on my web page, it's actually just basically just grepping through a text file where I have the title of a video and then the video ID for YouTube. And then I process it based on that. So I'm actually doing I'm using PHP, I think, but I'm basically grepping, searching for matches, and then splitting the line, grabbing the first part as the title, everything past the pipe symbol as the ID. Not the best example, right? So that's all there. And I'll talk more about how I have that set up again. I did this a long time ago, so again, it's just a text file, and you can actually download the whole text file from my website. I'll show you that in the future. But let's look at something that actually uses somewhat better formatting, although it's still a little sloppy. I'm going to go down to my software section here, right? And in my software section, I have my notes. I click on this, and it's a list of everything I've posted to Pastebin. Let's go ahead and close this because this actually opened up a new tab. I'll hit F12 for this new window. I am here, I'm going to clear out my filter here, and I have all selected. Now, nothing is in here because I didn't have this open when I loaded the page. If I hit F5, it's going to list everything that loaded on that page. So it's loaded up this file, the tux image, which the response there is, it's showing me the raw code. If I do preview, it will show the image. This is the output that of the default list it shows. You can see that I use JSON, and there's 121 different items loaded by default. If I was to go to response, it actually shows it all as one long string, but preview will let you open up the little tree view here. I have some, well, you won't actually see this HTML code. That's actually a plugin I wrote for my website, for myself. JSON manifest, I think that's also that, and then the fav icon. But what we want, again, if we go fetch XHR, it's going to show this, and I can type in bash, and it's going to list those up again. As I type more than 3 characters, it actually starts doing the search on all of that, so it lists it all there. And if I click on one of these, it actually takes a little time for it to load, and that's due to the way I wrote this, because it's not just getting the title of the page or of the script and the URL and stuff like that. I actually have it load up the entire script, and some of these scripts are pages long, so it's actually loading up a whole lot of information whenever we're searching here. Here you can see if I click on this and I expand this out, you can see this data here is actually a very, very long string, depending on how long that script is. But now we can use this. I can right click this, I can say copy, and for this I'm just going to copy the URL. I can now go to my shell, which is where we want to be, right? And I can use curl or wget. I'm going to say Q for quiet, O, and then dash. O, so it's a capital letter O. Dash meaning dump the output to the screen here. I'm going to give this, and I'm going to do this, and it's going to dump the JSON output, which looks like a mess right now because, again, I have a lot of information in there. I'm going to clear the screen. Now, this is where we're going to use a tool called JQ. It should be in your repositories. It's a great tool. It will format JSON for you. So I'm just going to pipe my JSON into JQ dot, right? JQ space period. And now at least it is formatting things a little bit nicer. And as you can see, this is a big long script. If I was to scroll up here, you can see that the data is an entire bash script. Same with this. And that's one of those things. And I did that so that when you're actually searching here, it's actually looking for keywords in the script, not just the title, which I actually labeled PID for some reason. But you can see each item has an ID, a unique ID, a PID, which is the title of the script. It has the data, whatever data is in that paste bin paste. A date field, which is empty. I don't know how I did that. A date to, which I think some of them have a date to. But then the URL, which is important. This is actually the ID on Pastebin, right? So if I was to go to Pastebin and put in this URL, this at the end of the URL, it would actually bring this script up on Pastebin. So I have all this loaded in my database, but it's also on Pastebin, so I have multiple copies, and I've talked about that previously. Let's go ahead and look at something a little bit less. So Bash, there's a lot of videos on Bash. Let me just do Nmap, right? So, well, I still have quite a few on Nmap, but not a whole lot. If I click here, we can see that there's 14 entries for Nmap. Let's go ahead and actually do something a little bit shorter. Let's do, no, that's good. Let's just do that. We'll say copy that URL. Again, wget-q for quiet, capital O dash. We could dump it into a file and then go through it. That's a good thing to do sometimes, especially when you're trying to figure out the website. You don't want to ping a website multiple times because you might get blocked. But we're just going to put in that URL and then we're going to dump it. Again, we will pipe that into JQ dot, and it's going to show all that. Now, let's say I just want to get the title and the URL. Well, JQ has a lot of options. And what I'm going to do now is going to put this inside single quotes. Oh, I hit enter by accident. So what we're going to do here is we're going to give it brackets because this is an array. And I'm going to say .url. And it's going to list out all the URLs, which in this case is really just the ID on Pastebin, but it's used for the URL, that it outputted. So all my scripts that have the word Nmap in them, they're listed here, and we have this. So I could actually take this, and I could go to Pastebin / give it that ID, and it should load that script, right? So we have that, but let's say I want the title. So now instead of doing URL, I can say .title. we do that, not title. That's right. I should have named the title. I named it PID. So there we go. We have the title of each of those videos. If we want to get both, what I can do here is I can pipe this into select, and then inside parentheses here, I can say comma dot URL. So what's going to do is it's going to print the title, the PID, and then the URL for each of these videos. Boom, boom, boom. Oh, what did I do wrong? Okay, there is a select option, but we don't use it here. We just pipe the output of that into parentheses and then give it the two values we want. And we can just give it a comma like this. And the comma is going to be like a new line character. So we get the title of the video, and then we get the URL. The title, and then the URL. But we want them on one line, so what I'm going to do here is we can put this, I can say plus, and then in quotations, give it a string. So I'm just going to say a pipe character. So here we're saying print the PID, pipe character, and then the URL. A little space there. And there we go, we have it all on one line. If we don't want the quotations around that, we can add to our QR command out here, -R, and now we're going to get this. But actually, we know that this is going to be a URL that's pastebin, so what I can actually do, instead of doing a pipe, I'm going to do space https://pastebin.com/. I do that, and now I have the video title and the URL, the video title and the URL, and if your shell's set up, if your terminal's set up to click on links, I can click on that link, and it will open it up. I can come here, I can click on this link, and it will open it up. So that is looking at these. Let me turn this camera back on. So that's a quick look at filtering through information. Most websites, I mean, a developer can do whatever they want. Like, right, mine original one was just text with pipe characters, splitting them up. But if you're going to have a lot of information, JSON is a great format. Probably the most commonly used for stuff like this. And with a tool like JQ, you could use grep and sed and awk and all that stuff to look through those, just like we did in the previous video that got a little complicated. But JQ is a great tool that allows you to go through. And here, I'm just saying, okay, get the output of that and just show me these two fields and add some text in there. It also gives you options to where it could take that output and look at the values and say, okay, if the value has this, so like right now we were searching for Nmap, and here I could say, okay, if we see the word ARM in the PID like that, then show that, or the other way around, right? Because like I said, there's no Nmap in here because my script's actually also searching the content of the script that we're looking through, so not just the title. That's why I load the entire script in that information. Anyway, JQ is a very powerful tool. This is a very basic example of how to use it. I've done other examples in the past, and we'll probably use this as we go on in this series. I thank you for watching, and as always, I hope that you have a great day.